Day 12, I watched Nightbreed for the first time, which is from 1990 and is a Clive Barker directed movie, also based on his book. And Nightbreed is one that I've heard about. I've heard people love this movie. So I thought I might as well give it a try on these 31 days. And I'll get to the positives first for this. I think that the music is awesome. Danny Elfman did the music, which when you hear the music, you know immediately this is Danny Elfman. Like immediately, like you know it's him, and I like that because Danny Elfman is such a iconic composer. Where if you hear like a little beat of his music, you know it's him. So I really like that Danny Elfman did this movie because he does a lot of movies like Tim Burton type creepy movies, but this one is way more adult and way more disgusting and vile. And I really like that he did a movie like that, like a score for it, because he usually does more creepy movies that aren't as gross and like more adult oriented. So I like that his whimsical kind of creepy music works in this movie. Um, I really thought that this movie, it's the plot of this movie, I guess, is that this guy named Boone is having nightmares and or not nightmares, he's having dreams of this place called Midian where like these creatures dwell that look horrifying, but they're sympathetic creatures that like are good, and there's this other group that's trying to get them, and this other guy that's trying to get them, and that is the basic plot of this. Um, but but again, I'll get back to the positives. I guess the creatures I think are cool. Like with the practical effects, they look good. Like I think these creatures are very Clive Barker looking, like Hellraiser. They look a lot like Hellraiser type monsters. Which I thought that creativity with the creatures is cool. Like how they look, how they're designed. Very very cool. Very bizarre but very memorable looking creatures. Um, and really, and the acting's good. Besides those couple things, I really didn't love this movie. I thought that and before I say the rest of my thoughts, I have not read the book. I know nothing about the lore of this movie. And this movie, to me, going in blind, felt like an example of something like Dune, where you watch Dune and you're like, they're saying all this stuff that I don't fully understand and they don't fully go through in the movie. It feels like a love letter to the fans of the book, which is great. But I just haven't read the book, so I went into this movie blind and was a little confused on what was going on. Like I knew the basic plot of this movie, but whenever they brought out names of characters that are either just referenced or will be shown later, it did throw me off to where I'm like, I don't fully get it. And again, they're those kind of names where it's like a fantasy thing where these names are kind of names that are like not basic names. So you kind of just go, oh, these kind of mesh together because they all sound the same. For me, and this is not an insult to the movie at all, because it's more of an insult to me because I didn't read the book. I'm just watching this movie blindly because I thought it looked like a cool horror movie, and it is a fantasy horror movie. And I did like that they really went all out with fantasy and horror. I thought that was pretty cool. But for me, this one was just very like it was a little hard for me to grasp completely. Even though it had some cool visuals, it had some cool characters. It had a cool idea of these creepy looking characters being sympathetic, but to me, this one just didn't do much for me. I feel like I would have loved it a lot more if I read the book or liked it a lot more. As is, I thought this was fine. Like, again, has some cool visuals, has some cool characters, has some cool creepy effects to it, has a good score, but overall, I just don't think I loved it. I just thought it was okay. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, blasphemy, you thought this was just okay, but from my end, from my point of view, just going into this movie blind, it's like I didn't realize that I would be as lost as I did. So that's on my fault. So if you don't like this, I understand. But or if you love this movie and don't get why I don't, I understand. But I didn't hate this movie. I thought this movie was fine. It was totally average fine, but it just was just a little too much, if that makes sense. And I also watched the director's cut. It was like 2 hours. I did. That's the only one that was available on Amazon Prime. So yeah, Nightbreed I thought was okay. I thought it was an okay time. So, yeah, an okay time. Again, like things about it, thought it was fine. So that is my review on Nightbreed, and thank you guys so much for watching.